Good morning, Kahal Kadosh, Shabuot Tov Mevorach to everybody. Today, the second day of Sivan, the 25th day of May, the 46th day of the Omer. Today's special class graciously sponsored by Mr. Clement Rahamim Beda Hamwi HaKohen, Le'ilui Nishmat, his beloved sister, Gladys Simcha Bat Sara, Aliyah HaShalom. Be'ezat Hashem, let it be the hope. Let us hope that the words of Torah from today's class will be an elevation to her soul. Amen. We are continuing the learning of the Pirke Abot, but although we are literally a few days away from Shabuot, this coming Thursday evening will be the celebration of Shabuot, but I feel confident that the Mishnayot that Be'ezat Hashem we are going to be learning today are very suitable and relevant for the upcoming Yom Tov of Shabuot. As we know very well, Shabuot, we commemorate the receiving of the Torah. Shavuot, we also commemorate the day of our marriage to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, as Shlomo HaMelech writes in Shir HaShirim, Beyom Hatunato Ubiyom Simchat Libo, the day of his marriage, which refers to the day of the giving of the Torah. And as I said in the 9:15 class today it's Yom HaMeyuchas, the day that HaKadosh Baruch Hu officially verbalized our love and our connection with Am Israel. V'item li segula mikol ha'amim. We are the most desired and prized treasure for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And that's why the next pasuk says, Ve'atem tiyu li mamlechet kohanim begoy kadosh. A Jew must aim for holiness. With that being said, we'd like to continue with the Pirke Avot, chapter 2, Mishnah 5, or according to some books, it could be Mishnah 4. So this Mishnah continues from Hillel. We'll read it quickly, and then we'll expand it accordingly. Hillel said, Al tifrosh min hasibur. Do not separate yourself from the community. Ve'al ta'amin be'asmecha ad yom motcha. And do not trust yourself until the day that you go back to meet the Creator. Ve'al tadin et havercha al shetagia linkomo. Do not judge your fellow man until you have reached his place or her place. Ve'al tomar. And as a teacher, Al tomar, do not say davar she'i efshar lishmoa, something that is not possible to understand immediately. She'sofo leishama, on the grounds that at the end will be understood. Ve'al tomar, and do not say lekeshefne eshne, when I'm free I will study Torah. Shema lo tipane, perhaps you will never become free. Short Mishnah, just a few lines, loaded of messages. For that, we're going to call in the reinforcements. Rabbeinu Ovadia of Bartenura, the master commentator in the Mishnayot, I will let him do some of the talking. Right here. He explains, do not separate yourself from the community. It says, Rabbeinu Ovadia of Bartenura, that the essence of connecting ourselves with the community, especially in the moment of hardship, is a great merit for everyone. Rabbeinu Ovadia of Bartenura says, associate yourself with the hardship. Shekol haporesh min hatzibur. The tractate in Ta'anit says, page 11, that whoever separates themselves from the Sibur, eno ro'eh benehamat hasibur, will not merit to see the salvation of the community. Those are very strong words. But the Gemara says in Masechet Ta'anit, Bizman she'Yisrael sheru'im besa'ar, the moment that the Jewish people are going through hardship. And I believe that we all can agree that for the past 2 months, not only Am Israel went through hardship, but the entire world went through hardship. Upiresh had mehem. And one person says, you know what? That hardship really doesn't affect me. No casualties in my community. No one that I know went to the hospital. By me, everything is fine. My livelihood is not affected. Nothing, it affects me at all. That could be a blessing, but sometimes could not be the opposite. It says, and the person takes an attitude like, you know what? I don't have to make the extra prayers. I don't have to participate in the communal prayers for forgiveness or to activate the heavenly mercy. The Gemara continues, Ba'im shene malache hasharet, 2 angels, shemelavin lo la'adam, that they are escorting the person on a regular basis. This is something that we say every Friday night after Shalom Aleichem. Besides the fact that when we say Shalom Aleichem, we are welcoming the angels to see how our home is ready for the Shabbat, etc., the way we have learned in the past. But also we say, Ki mal'achav yesavelach lishmorcha bechol derachecha. There are 2 bodyguards that constantly are with us, and they help us, they protect us, even without our knowledge. These are heavenly creations that Hashem sends to us. Manihim lo yedehem al rosho. Both place their hands in the head of this fellow. Veombrim peloni ze, Mr. So-and-so, shepiresh min hatzibur, that separated himself from the community. Al ir'e benehamat hasibur, may not see the salvation. This is a very scary concept that the Talmud tells us. And you can draw your own conclusions. What does it mean, will not see the salvation? We go further. The Gemara writes, Bizman she'asibur sharui besa'ar, when the community is going through hardship. Al yomar adam, a person should never say, Elech lebeti, I go to my home, ve'ochel, and I will eat, ve'eshte, and I will drink, beshalom alech nafshi, peace upon me. Ela yisa'er adam im hasibur. But a person needs to associate themselves with the struggles of the community. The same way that HaKadosh Baruch Hu struggles with us, and yes, Hashem struggles with us, is part of our daily prayers that says, Bechol Saratam Lo Tsar, every time the Jew as individual or the Jewish people as a whole go through hardship and difficulties, Hashem experiences their pain. The Shekhinah, which is one of the names of Hashem's presence, it's like the mother of a person. And everybody agrees that the mother feels the pain of their child. And at times the mother feels more the pain of the child than the child itself, because the mother thinks ahead. But it says the Gemara, Bechol המסער עצמו עם הציבור, זוכה ורואה בנחמת ציבור. But a person that associates themselves with the struggles or the hardships of the community, Borei Olam will also bring redemption to that person. This is the Mishnah by itself. I'd like to take it to the next level a bit, and only to reinforce something that we know. The power of the Sibur, the power of the community. There is nothing greater in the Jewish world like the power of the community. And I'm not only talking about minyanim. I'm talking about how beautiful communities become united to help people, to help institutions, to help individuals, to help families, to help. And that zechut, Kahal Kadosh, it is something that we don't even have an idea how powerful and how beautiful it is. That's Koah HaSibur. The Gemara in Berachot tells us, B'sha'a she'atzibur mitpalelim, the moment that the Kahal prays together, En HaKadosh Baruch Hu mo'es bitfilatam shel rabbim, when the people get together to pray, something that in our days is considered a luxury. How crazy is this? That now praying with a minyan is almost a luxury. Depends where you live, depends on the age, depends on the protocol. Be'ezat Hashem, it's our hope and our intention, God willing, to open the synagogue for the celebration of Shabuot. How much we're going to cherish that moment that we are able to say Nagdishach, and we are able to get the blessing from the Kohanim of seeing the Sefer Torah coming out. That is the power of the Sibur. That is the power of the Kahal. And we hope and pray that synagogues all over the world will be open to cater to the social, emotional, and obviously a spiritual need of every one of us. But that is the power of the Kahal. That is the power of the community. Not only that, put the prayer with the minyan on the side for a moment. The power of the community is what keeps us alive together. How many stories we have heard throughout the years in my own family or even in our synagogue when we used to give breakfast every day and have several classes back to back, minyan after minyan, and often we heard comments made by our dear members. May they all be well, Be'ezat Hashem, with health and happiness. How much it was important for the person and for themselves, and I include myself in this statement, to live surrounded by the power and by the spiritual presence of the community. Why? The Pasuk writes in the Navi, Ish et re'ehu ya'azoru ulahiv yomar hazak. Even though people may not talk to each other, but the fact that we are living together, and we come to the Bet HaKnesset, and we send the kids to schools, and we go to the supermarkets, and we go to the restaurants, that alone, it gives us the foundation of what we need to survive as Yehudim. But how many times I heard that people venture out of the community and they went to live to different places. You can call them Louisiana, we can call them Milwaukee, you can call it Dallas, Texas, or you can call it Bahia Blanca in Argentina, or whatever town or city you move, perhaps for good reasons, to provide for your family, for a better quality of life. But as we learned in the past, we don't just move. We need to do our homework first. Where is the synagogue? What type of community is there? What type of kashrut? Is there a mikveh? Is there Jewish school for the kids? Is there kosher food? In other words, is what I need to survive, it's available for me or not? If any of the above questions, the answer is no, my answer to you will be, stay where you are. Why? Very simple. Because if you move to a place that doesn't have a synagogue, or a city that doesn't have a mikveh, or doesn't have kosher food available, what does it tell you? That most likely the community is very small or almost non-existent. So how are you going to survive spiritually? This is the message of the Mishnah as well. The message of the Mishnah wasn't limited only, to the message of the Gemara. The message of the Mishnah is to tell us, be careful where you live. It's like sometimes people ask, Rabbi, I like to move to Israel. I will tell you one thing, that moving to Israel, although it's a beautiful dream that many people have, and it's going to be the ultimate goal, but you cannot just move and land in the middle of nowhere. You need to have what you're able to get to keep up with the spiritual level that we are today. And although Israel is beautiful, but we do understand that comes also with some challenges, like any city of the world. So therefore the Mishnah is telling us, Al tifrosh min hatzibur. You cannot live without the help of the tzibur. Even though you don't talk to anybody, which I don't believe that is a reality. But let's say that you don't talk to anybody. It doesn't matter. The fact that we see each other coming to pray, coming to learn, going to a restaurant, going to a store, going to a Sabbath, going to a Milah, going some here, there, and all between the parameters of Jewish unity and community, that keeps our neshama flourishing and growing in ways that otherwise cannot be achieved. And regretfully, sometimes those challenges becomes expanded by living in an environment that there is no community presence or spiritual community support whatsoever. Next sentence of the Mishnah, Al ta'amin be'asmicha ad yom motach. Don't believe in yourself till the day that you leave the world. Rabbeinu Ovadia of Aventura explains an unfortunate story in Masechet Berachot with the great Rabbi Yohanan Kohen Gadol. Rabbi Yohanan Kohen Gadol was 80 years a Kohen Gadol. Can you imagine? Think for a moment. 80 years a Kohen Gadol. And at the end of his life, he turned. He became a Sedoki. He became part of a group that were, so to speak, misinterpreting the Torah and changing the ways of our Torah. And this is what happened to the great Rabbi Yohanan Kohen Gadol. And comes here, and the Mefarshim explains that don't say, this doesn't affect me spiritually. We know the Mishnah in Pirke Abot, in the beginning. If we remember the first Mishnah, remember some of the first messages of the Mishnah that we learned a long time ago? Asu seyag la Torah. Build fences for the Torah. Although this message can be interpreted for the Hachamim to create certain type of fence, but also we as Yehudim, as individuals, and as a community, but specifically as individuals. Because when you talk about community, you're talking about a huge variety of people, of all ages, of all backgrounds, of all levels, of all spiritual knowledge, background, education, marriage, etc. So we're not going to talk about community now. We talk about the individual. So we, as individuals, we need to know where to draw the line. And that's basically what the Mishnah is telling us. You know, don't say, I can do this, it doesn't affect me. I'm strong. I'm strong, I can handle the Yetzer Hara. The Mishnah is telling us, if Rabbi Yohanan, after 80 years of being a Kohen Gadol, do we have a clue what does it mean to be a Kohen Gadol? We know the theory. The Kohen Gadol was wearing 8 garments, 4 of them white, 4 of them colorful, and in the day of Yom Kippur will go to the mikveh 10 times and will change 5 times. And some of the work was with the white garment, some of the work was with the colorful garment. The Kohen Gadol used to offer the ketoret and doing certain sacrifices. All that is beautiful. But do we really understand in the world of spirituality, what does it mean to be a Kohen Gadol? It was almost like a malach. God spoke to the Jewish people through the breastplate, to the Hoshen Mishpat, that the Kohen Gadol wore. And yet Rabbi Yohanan, Kohen Gadol, after 80 years, you know what it means 80 years? That he went alive into the Kodesh HaKodashim in Yom Kippur and came out alive. We discussed this a long time ago in the Daf Yomi Masechet Yomah. How dangerous was the day of Kippur for the Kohen Gadol, to the point that the Mishnah writes that we used to have a Segan Kohen Gadol, a backup Kohen Gadol, that if God forbid the Kohen Gadol in charge will perish through the day of Kippur into the Holy of Holies, we will be able to bring his body out and then send the backup Kohen Gadol to finish the spiritual service. So imagine yourself, Rabbi Yohanan, 80 times going in and coming out, going in and coming out, going in and coming out, 80 times. That means 80 years. 80 years. And yet, his spiritual end was not good. So if this is what's happening with great tzaddikim, imagine yourself how careful we need to be in making sure that our defenses are in the proper level. And I don't mean the way we hear today, the antibodies, the blood cells, the white cells, the red cells. I mean pashut kipshuto. Our spiritual fence of protection surrounds us. Like we put a fence around the balcony, like we put a fence around our swimming pools, which both of them are biblical commandments of Ma'akeh, found in Perashat Kitetze. Our spiritual life also needs to have boundaries. Continues the Mishnah. Ve'al taddin er havercha ad shetagia linkomo. This is one of the most beautiful Mishnayot that says, do not judge your friend until you have reached his space. That basically means that many times people are very quick to judge others and to criticize others, especially in a situation of a spiritual predicament or failure. So our Mishnah is telling us, and I read quickly, and it says, if you saw that your friend went through a challenge and failed, don't judge him adversely until you reach his own test in your own shoes. In other words, you don't know what really happened with a person. The problem with us is that we judge the outside, we judge whatever is visible to our eyes, but we don't see more than that. That pasuk is actually, it's a pasuk from the book of Shmuel, when God appointed Shmuel and told him, go and pick up a son of Ishai. And when Shmuel saw the son Eliab and Shammah, etc., he didn't understand how come God refused these candidates that apparently externally they were powerful, they were strong, they were eloquent, they were successful, they were great Talmidei Chachamim, and God says, Ki ha'adam ro'eh la'enayim, v'Hashem ro'eh la'levav. I believe that is how the pasuk goes, because a person sees only the shell, only externally, but God sees to the heart of the person. What this Mishnah is trying to tell us is, don't judge others, which a different Gemara tells us that the less we judge people, the less we are being judged. And that is a great advantage for us. And the more we give people the benefit of the doubt, the more Shamayim will also give us the benefit of the doubt. What a beautiful message. Let's continue. Be'al tomar davar she'i efshar lishmoa. This refers to rabbis or teachers. And it means, do not say something that is not possible to understand immediately, on the grounds that it will be eventually understood. It says here that a teacher must teach with clarity. In other words, when the student comes out of the classroom, or when the student comes out of the shi'ur, the student should have some type of clarity in their mind. We are not saying that a student may not have questions at the end of the class. That's why people ask questions every day. And we're not against that. The opposite. The opposite. If a person doesn't ask questions, how they are going to learn? But also, as we learned the other day, umitalmidai yoter mikulam. Rabbis acquire knowledge not only by learning themselves or by teaching. Rabbis learn from the students. What that means? That means that when a student asks a question, and now the rabbi needs to do halachic or Torah research, maybe that question never bothered the rabbi because he considered it to be something not really necessary. But yet, when the question comes up, and now the rabbi sits down and does the research and does the due diligence and comes back with an answer, now the rabbi became more knowledgeable, so to speak, because of the student. That is beautiful. And that's why the Ask the Rabbi classes are very popular. Since we started the Zoom, we do this every day. After prayers, we open the mic, after I finish my short class, and then people ask all kinds of questions. Some of them, Baruch Hashem, I have the answer. Some of them, I have to get back. And then I do the research, and I come back. But I'm sure that many rabbis answer questions. I'm only talking because I'm on this side of the camera. But this is part of the Mishnah. And that's why the Mishnah says, when a teacher is giving a lesson, needs to contain clarity. So the student will absorb it appropriately in a most clear and suitable manner. Be'al tomar lekeshefne eshne shema lo tipane. And don't say, you know what? When I get rid of the Yetzer Hara, basically, when I'm free of the Yetzer Hara, I will sit down to learn Torah. And the Mishnah says, in plain English, that is a recipe for disaster. Why? Because maybe the Yetzer Hara never will let you go. Yes, there are situations that the Yetzer Hara lets go of the person. When the person, God forbid, is sick, has v'shalom, so the person is in bed, cannot move, cannot function, cannot move. So then the Yetzer Hara puts the person indirectly in retirement. Or when the person reaches a certain age that the mind regretfully no longer functions, and therefore the Mishnah says there is no such a thing that you're going to wait till the Yetzer Hara leaves you to start learning Torah. The opposite. Remember the Gemara in Shabbat that asks, Kavata itim la Torah, the concept of learning Torah daily. Without a doubt, one of the weapons of mass destruction that we have as Yehudim in the war against the common enemy known as the Yetzer Hara is the study of Torah. As the Gemara writes in Kiddushin, I believe, Barati Yetzer Hara, Barati lo Torah tablin. I created the Yetzer Hara, God says. I created the antidote of the Yetzer Hara, which is Torah learning. And that's why the Gemara goes even further. In paga v'cha menuval ze, moshchehu lebet midrash. If this low-life creation is bothering you or is meeting you by chance, drag him to the Bet Midrash. That's what the Gemara writes as well. And what better way to activate the beautiful lessons of today's Mishnah, like the celebration of Shabuot. Shabuot is the conclusion of 7 days of intense training, day after day, day after day, day after day. This number of the Omer, this Sephirah of the Omer, this Midah of the Omer. I think that we all can agree that through the Omer days, we learn, Baruch Hashem, Torah, and perhaps we learn this time of the year more Torah than ever, simply because people are at home, people are quarantined, and many people are still yet not leaving the home, and we hope and pray that things will stabilize a bit in the very near future, not only with the synagogues, but with everything else. But remember, the life preservation is a non-negotiable commandment, an obligation from a Torah perspective. So please, please follow the guidelines, follow the protocol, whichever city you are, whichever synagogue you go, through being more careful ourselves, we will be saving people's lives and preventing, God forbid, the opposite. So Shavuot is the time, and we can call it the wedding anniversary of Am Israel and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I believe I quoted before Shlomo HaMelech, Beyom Hatunato. Beyom Hatunato, this refers the day of the Torah given to Am Israel, the giving of the Torah. Today was the day that God proposed to the Jewish people marriage. And God says, Bitem li segula mikol ha'amim. You are my most desired treasure, my most prized treasure from all of the nations of the world. If this is not a proposal, what is this then? And then we got married 4 days later. Unbelievable shidduch. Proposal on a Monday and wedding on Thursday night, Friday morning. This is exactly what happened with Am Israel. So if we are getting married again, or let's say it better, we are celebrating our wedding anniversary, and we need to remember, do you know how many wedding anniversaries we are about to celebrate this year? Just do the numbers. If we received the Torah in the year 2448, and now we are in the year 5780, so we're talking about 3,332 year anniversary. Now, what gift you gonna give? I know that in the world of gifts, every certain amount of years in marriage, I think that there is a different stone for the 5 years, 10, 15, 50. Can you imagine now celebrating our commitment with God 3,332 times? What a powerful number. So what do we do? How do we take advantage of the wedding anniversary? I believe the short answer is by making commitments to Akadosh Baruch Hu. I'm not talking about commitment of financial donation. For some people, that is easier than making a spiritual commitment. But if we commit ourselves with the upcoming arrival of Shabuot, that we make the effort of increasing in our Torah learning, in our prayers, in our behavior, in our spiritual discipline, restraint, and self-control that is required to serve God properly, I believe that we are going to be in the very, very right track. With that being said, with your permission, I'd like to go on to the next Mishnah. And the next Mishnah says as follows. Hu haya omer, Hillel used to say, En bur yere het. A bur means someone that is uncultured or uncivilized, that doesn't know the difference between right and wrong. Yere het, he can never be fearful of a sin. Velo am haares hasid. And someone that is unlearned person can never be a pious person. Velo habaishan lomed, and a bashful person cannot learn because he's going to be embarrassed of asking questions. Velo hakafdan melamed, and also a person that is impatient or a strict person can be a teacher, because if the teacher needs to have the patience to learn or to teach to the bashful, and this fellow happens to be impatient, how the bashful will learn? Belo kol hamarbe bishora mahkim. And not every person that is excessively occupied in business will become wiser or will become a scholar. Uminkom she'en ish. And in a place where there are no leaders, hishtadel lihiyot ish. You try to become the leader. Let's try to cover quickly this particular Mishnah of today. So it says, the first explanation, that a person that is empty of Torah and from wisdom or even life experience, he really doesn't know what is the difference between right and wrong. And because of his innocence, how is he going to be able to keep a distance from things that are unacceptable or inappropriate from a Torah perspective? Belo am haares hasid. Am haares refers in English like an ignorant individual, someone who does not know Torah, but he knows how to interact with people. He has experience in the world of business, and he understands that lack of honesty in business and inappropriate behavior is unacceptable, but he cannot really cross the line to become a Hasid. Let's clarify that a Hasid here in our Mishnah, it does not mean a dress code, the way the Hasidic movement functions in part. It actually means how can the person truly become devoted to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So the more Torah a person learns, the more ignorant the person remains, the closer the person can get to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Not only that, it says, Hasidut, to become a pious person, it means that a person goes the extra mile. the person goes above the letter of the law. The person creates situations that will get closer and closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Something that the world of business may not accept as common practice. Give more to the customer or discount the rates. Some cases yes, some cases not. But in the mind of many people, the bottom line is, how much money did you make? And the Mishnah in Pirke Abot is telling us, maybe money is important to live, but it's not the ultimate goal and main purpose in life. The main purpose in life is that you create a balance surrounded by godliness, not only in the world of spirituality, but also in the world of finances. To manage the financial affairs, to manage the business matters in a kosher, in a respectful, and in a decent way. Belo habayshan lamed. If a person is embarrassed to ask, and then he goes home with a question and the fear of asking, then the person most likely will not do, because he or she doesn't understand. So therefore, the Mishnah is telling us, ask questions. Obviously, ask the proper questions. What does it mean? There is a protocol when it comes to ask questions. If it's an open forum, like Ask the Rabbi class, you ask whatever you want to ask. But let's say that we are learning now Pirke Avot, and then you like to ask a question about how to bake matzot in Pesach, for example, or how to proceed with the tefillah in Rosh Chodesh. And this is not the topic that we are learning. So the person needs to be smart enough to understand that if you're going to ask a question in the middle of a class, it should be relevant, or it needs to be relevant to the topic that we are discussing. And then after the class, privately, you tell your teacher, I'm sorry teacher, I'd like to ask you a question about something that we learned the other day, relevant to Shabbat or relevant to Pesach, whatever, that's definitely. But if a person in the learning itself will not ask the question, so the time goes by, the person doesn't understand, and the person moves on. But that's why it says, Ish'al Adam et הפסוק אף על פי שהכל משמחים עליו. It says, even though that some student may say, that's your question, that's such an easy answer. It says, maybe that could be embarrassing to the person. But in Shamayim, the fact that a person was not ashamed of asking in order to understand the Torah better, that person became the hero of the day. And continues the Mishnah, Belo hakavdan melamed. A person that does not have patience and tolerance to answer to the students accordingly. In other words, the teacher may say, come on, you don't know that answer? What happened? You turn off the student of asking. And therefore, mefahadim mimenu, the students have fear of the teacher, benimna'im milish'ol oto, and they don't ask. And if they don't ask, they go home with a doubt or with a question. And that spiritually is not always beneficial to the person. So therefore it says, the teacher or the rabbi must explain the lesson to the students in the clear way and be able to answer the questions. How many times the Talmud tells us that there was a rabbi, I think, that reviewed the lesson 400 times for one student that wasn't able to understand the lesson. Do you understand what it means 400 times? By the third time, says, let me get your habruta to deal with you because you are too much. Haz v'shalom. Let's continue. Belo kol hamarbe b'schora mahkim. And not the one that increases in business becomes more knowledgeable. It says, very simple. There is no wisdom when it comes to the aspect of business. Of course, you need to have a bit of wisdom to make the right move, to buy at the right price, to find the proper lease. In other words, to make the deal. But as far as concerned, the wisdom, that can only come through intellect. And the intellect can be fed only through learning. And I'm referring to Torah learning, which is the main message of the Pirke Abot. And therefore, the Gemara writes, brings a story in Masechet Nida, that the people of Alexandria, Egypt, asked the great Rabbi Yoshua ben Hananiah, and they asked, Ma ya'aseh adam beyahkim? It says, what can a person do in order to become wiser? You know what he said? Yarve beyeshiva beima'ed bishora. Sit down more time in the yeshiva, in the kollel, in the Torah class, and spend less time in the world of business. What the great rabbi was trying to say is, you don't buy wisdom of Torah on the street. You buy business knowledge on the street. But Torah, it needs to be learned with the teachers, with the hachamim, with the habrutot, etc. Ubemakom she'en ish. And if there are people in the city to learn Torah from them, so to speak, ishtadel liyot ish. You try to grow in the best way possible. Through Torah learning, through the refinement of the character of the individual. In other words, you built yourself, and Baruch Hashem today, with technology, even though that a person may be in the city, that it doesn't have live Torah classes, but today with technology, you can have a habruta over the phone, over FaceTime, WhatsApp, video, Zoom, whatever option you would like to use. Ishtadel liyot ish, it says, be a community activist. Be a community committee member. Whatever that title means. In other words, roll up your sleeves and help the Sibur. There is no one of the greatest zechuyot that a person can have in their life is working for the community. And I'm not speaking about from the perspective of the rabbinate. I'm talking about from the perspective of being a committee member. So, Be'ezat Hashem, let us hope and pray that the beautiful lessons of today's Mishnah in Pirke Avot help us to prepare ourselves in a beautiful way for the upcoming celebration of Shabuot. And Yeh Ratzon, that the words of Torah of today be an elevation to the neshama of Gladys Simcha Bat Sara, Aliyah Shalom, beloved sister of our member, Mr. Clement Beda, that graciously sponsored today's class in her loving memory. A friendly reminder that tonight, Be'ezat Hashem, we have virtually invited my dear friend and colleague, Rabbi Eli Mansur, to speak to the Kahal Kadosh in honor of Shavuot. So this class most likely will be broadcasted live via itorah.com or via the special Zoom channel with the information that was shared earlier to our Kahal Kadosh. Tizku Leshanim Rabot. May everybody have a joyous, meaningful, and happy celebration of Shavuot. Tizku Leshanim Rabot. Chag Sameach to everyone. Have a great week.